Central America is a region known for the warmth of its people and its beautiful scenery. However, in the last decade, this image has been overshadowed by an increasing threat: violence. In the Northern Triangle countries, homicide rates in 2010 elevated the region into one of the most violent in the world. In Guatemala, there were 5,960 murders at a rate of 41.5 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. In the same year, in El Salvador, there were 4,004 murders, a rate of 64.8 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. Honduras report 6,236 homicide, a rate of 77.5 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. In Panama, homicide rates grew by 120% in just 10 years, increasing from 306 in 2001 to 703 in 2011. They reach a rate of 21 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. In the region, more than 50% of these homicides were carried out by people under the age of 30, and over 60% of victims were younger than 27 years old. But what does this have to do with Belize? The Belizean society, rich in cultural diversity and encompassing 6 major ethnic groups, has a population of approximately 314,000, of which 60% is under the age of 35. Similarly to other countries in the Central American region, Belize has been facing an increasing crime and violence involving youth, both as victims and perpetrators of crime. Serious crimes in Belize during the past decade totaled 68,343. 43% of those crimes involved theft, 41% burglary, 12% robbery, and 2% murder. In 2010, the murder rate in Belize increased to a record level of 128 homicides. This translates to 39 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. This rate was as high as 75 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants in Belize City. Statistics show that more than 50% of the murder victims in 2010 were under the age of 30, with gun violence being the most frequent cause of death for youth between the ages of 22 to 30. Can this get worse? Yes, it can. In the year 1985, in Bogota, Colombia, there were 80 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. In 1991, in Medellin, Colombia, there were 380 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants, one of the highest murder rates in the world. However, Colombia was able to reverse these trends. In Bogota, in 10 years, the homicide rate dropped from 80 to 20 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. And in Medellin, in 15 years, the homicide rate dropped from 380 to 26 per 100,000 inhabitants. Do you still believe this has nothing to do with Belize? If nothing is done, if no actions are taken in Belize, crime and violence may continue to escalate, and its young people, one of Belize's most valuable resources, will be the most affected. In Belize, what can we do to ensure violence does not increase or diminishes? What can you do so that Belize becomes a less violent country?